President Nana Akufo-Addo is back home from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he attended the 28th Ordinary Session of the African Union. He was met on arrival by Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Ministers of State and some senior officers of the security agencies. This is the President's first visit to the headquarters of the African Union since he assumed office last month, and it afforded him the opportunity to interact with his colleagues. The Minister Designate for Information, Mustafa Hamid, said the African leaders resolved to introduce policies to ensure that the continent's 200 million youth population is able to benefit.
This year's summit is themed Harnessing the Demographic Dividends through Investments in Youth. Basically, what the African Union is saying is that Africa is the youngest continent in the world, and they want to see that youthfulness as an advantage that we can harness for the prosperity of the African continent. Other continents are complaining about an aging population, and of course, an aging population means less productivity. So if we have a youthful population, it is reported that between about over 200 million of the youth of Africa are between the ages of 18 and 35. So the African Union wants African governments to invest more in youth development in order to take advantage of this demographic advantage that we have. And so the President of Chad, His Excellency Idriss Deby, has been selected by the African Union to be the champion of this team throughout the year and to draw action plans that would compel all African governments to buy into this idea of harnessing the demographic dividends that our youthful population as an African continent gives us. Now, what was also significant was that the African Union agreed on what it calls the Continental Free Trade Area. In other words, the African Union believes that the way that we can develop as a continent is if we increase trade amongst ourselves. Currently, it is said that trade amongst African countries is only about 10%. In other words, 10% of volume of trade amongst African countries is what goes on. In other continents, the volume of trade amongst themselves is about between 40 and 60%. And the African Union believes that this is not acceptable. And therefore, we need to step up trade amongst the various African nations.